Hello everyone. Have you ever heard of the genocide that killed more than 6 million Jews? Or World War II, which caused the deaths of over 85 million people worldwide? And the person responsible for these two bloody events, you have probably heard his name before. Here's the world map. Let's zoom in. We can see this is Europe, and right here is the border between Germany and Austria. On April 20th, 1889, an innocent baby was born there, and that baby was Adolf Hitler. Hitler's father was Alois Hitler. Before Adolf Hitler was born, Alois had already been married twice. His first wife was Anna Glasser, but she was often ill. Later, he married his second wife, Franziska Matzelsberger, and had 2 children with her. However, his second wife later became seriously ill. Alois Hitler asked his cousin, Clara Pausel, to help take care of his wife. Not long after his second wife passed away, Alois decided to marry Clara. Clara Pausel and Alois Hitler had 4 children, Gustav, Ida, Otto, and Adolf Hitler. The first 3 died young, leaving Adolf as the only surviving child at the time, and he was deeply loved by his mother. Later, he also had a younger brother. Adolf Hitler was enrolled in a public elementary school by his family. He made a good impression on the principal, who described him as a bright and well-behaved child. Sometimes he was quite hyperactive. As the family faced financial hardship, his father, Alois Hitler, became hot-tempered and often beat Adolf Hitler when he made mistakes. At the age of 8, Adolf Hitler joined the church choir and dreamed of becoming a priest. Around that time, his younger brother died of measles, deeply affecting him. From an energetic and lively boy, Adolf Hitler gradually became cold, quiet, and often talked back to his teachers. He grew undisciplined, and his academic performance declined. This angered his father, Alois Hitler, who constantly pushed him to become a diligent civil servant like himself. The conflict between Adolf Hitler and his father kept growing. After his father, Alois Hitler, passed away, Hitler was no longer beaten. In 1907, at 18, he moved to Vienna, capital of Austria, hoping to become a painter. However, Adolf Hitler failed to impress the professors and was rejected. In December 1908, his mother died of breast cancer. Without her financial support, he entered one of the hardest periods of his life, becoming homeless and surviving on charity soup kitchens and the streets. To earn a living, Adolf Hitler took various jobs, such as shoveling snow, carrying luggage at railway stations, and working as a construction laborer. Later, he became a freelance painter, selling watercolor landscapes in Vienna to tourists. This work improved his artistic skills. Adolf Hitler's paintings were praised for being so precise they looked like photographs. However, critics said they felt cold and lacked emotion, suggesting he was better suited to be an architect than a painter. Of course, Adolf Hitler could never paint as well as I do. No one knows exactly when his anti-Jewish views began, but many historians believe hardship shaped his distorted mindset. Sir, can you share when the thinking of excluding Jews first formed in you? Fuck your mother. During this time, the political situation in Vienna City began to get tense. Hitler was first exposed to racist arguments. For example, this mayor followed extreme nationalism, openly spread anti-Jewish ideas, and Hitler idolized him greatly. At this time, Hitler got his draft notice, but was rejected by the Austro-Hungarian army for being unfit. He refused to serve Austria. Later, he called his army a bunch of animals. In May 1913, Hitler moved to Munich, Germany. In August 1914, World War I broke out. News spread quickly across Europe within days. Despite Austrian citizenship, Hitler somehow volunteered and joined the German army. Although the battlefield was brutal, Hitler showed no fear and later called it the most wonderful time of his life. Hitler decided that war was the true purpose of his life. He was reported as a brave soldier and received the Iron Cross in 1914. For a lowly soldier like Hitler, receiving this medal was unimaginable. In October 1916, Hitler was wounded when a bomb exploded in the bunker. He returned to the city for treatment. During treatment there, Hitler was irritated seeing anti-war protests from the peace-loving community. As a war enthusiast, he naturally disliked this, and Hitler silently vowed that one day he would exterminate these people. After finishing treatment, he returned to the front line. In October 1918, Hitler was temporarily blinded by a gas attack and had to return for treatment again. And during this time, the German army was defeated, and this news was nothing short of a shock to Hitler. To Hitler, the German army was an invincible force that could not be defeated on the battlefield, and the loss could only be due to being stabbed in the back by communist and Jewish civilian leaders. And Hitler swore that one day he would make those people pay. In reality, Germany's defeat had nothing to do with communists or Jews. It was due to complete exhaustion from prolonged military campaigns, and above all, being overwhelmed by the United States' superior power after America entered the war. However, one thing: what does Germany winning or losing have to do with you? You're Austrian. I am German. After World War I, Germany was the defeated nation, while the three victorious powers were the United States, Britain, and France. Germany was forced to sign the Treaty of Versailles in 1919 to end the war. The terms included giving up territory to France, Poland, and Denmark, reducing its military to a minimal level, and paying war reparations of $5 billion in 1919. After the war ended, Adolf Hitler returned to Munich. However, lacking qualifications, he didn't know how to make a living. Hitler applied to serve on active duty as an informant. The unfair terms of the Treaty of Versailles caused deep anger among the German people. Political divisions grew, and the government saw a serious threat, especially from communist groups. Adolf Hitler was assigned to spy on political parties and report potential threats. During one mission, he found a new party called the German Workers' Party, whose red flag and name sounded quite communist. Adolf Hitler attended one of their meetings and realized they were not communists at all. The members regularly discussed nationalism and anti-Semitism. Feeling the party suited him, he joined and became member number 555. In March 1920, Adolf Hitler left the army to devote himself fully to the party. He quickly impressed the leadership and supporters with his speaking skills, and his political career began to rise during this period. The German Workers' Party was renamed the National Socialist German Workers' Party, later known as the Nazi Party. On its red flag, Adolf Hitler added a swastika, creating what would become one of the deadliest symbols in human history. Germany's economy collapsed under heavy war reparations to Britain, France, and the United States. As its resources ran out, Germany printed more money to pay them. However, printing more money did not make the country richer. It only caused the currency to lose value, a situation economists call inflation. In 1919, one US dollar was equal to 4.5 German marks. However, by 1923, the mark had become so worthless, it was worth less than scrap paper, and the German people bore the consequences. The people were exhausted from working day after day and still not having enough to eat. At times, it took a truckload of money just to buy a loaf of bread. Public anger grew, and Adolf Hitler saw this as the right moment to make a revolution. Adolf Hitler and the Nazi Party organized many public rallies to attract supporters. They even drove trucks around Munich, waving swastika flags and handing out leaflets to promote the events. Hitler represented the party and delivered speeches at these gatherings. Adolf Hitler quickly gained fame through speeches attacking the Treaty of Versailles. He claimed that only those of pure German blood were superior, while Jews were inferior and did not deserve to live in the country. At the same time, he promised to restore Germany to its former glory. Adolf Hitler also formed a private force called the Storm Battalion SA, whose mission was to protect his speeches from disruption. The Storm Battalion SA continued recruiting. Because the Treaty of Versailles forced Germany to reduce its army, many unemployed ex-soldiers joined Adolf Hitler's force. This helped the force grow larger and stronger over time. Hitler adopted fascism as the face and core policy of the Nazi Party. In short, fascism is an extremely barbaric ideology that advocates terrorism and aggressive wars of conquest to dominate the world. Seeing his forces were strong enough, Adolf Hitler decided to launch a coup. On November 8, 1923, Adolf Hitler led his forces and supporters in a march aimed at overthrowing the government. He was confident that his influence would cause the police to side with him. But Adolf Hitler was wrong. About 16 Nazi Party members and 4 police officers were killed in the failed coup. Adolf Hitler was arrested and charged with treason on November 11, 1923. During the trial, Adolf Hitler showed no fear. Instead, he used his powerful oratory skills to turn the courtroom into a political speech. The judges were captivated by his words and saw him as a charismatic figure. Adolf Hitler could have faced life in prison, but after winning over the judges, he was sentenced to only 5 years. Although it was called imprisonment, the cell was as comfortable as a 5-star hotel. During this time, Adolf Hitler wrote an autobiographical book expressing his extreme political views. Throughout the book, Jews were described as a disease, and the only solution was to kill them all. The incident quickly spread nationwide through the media, and Adolf Hitler's name became widely known. Although he was sentenced to 5 years, he was released after just 9 months, spending a little over a year in total, including pretrial detention. The United States initially showed leniency by extending Germany's reparation deadlines and lending money to help rebuild after the war. However, on October 24, 1929, the stock market on Wall Street collapsed, and the U.S. entered the Great Depression, leading to massive bankruptcies and unemployment. In this context, America demanded that Germany repay its debts. Combined with the heavy war reparations, this became a devastating blow to Germany. Life grew even harsher, unemployment soared, poverty spread everywhere, and public anger toward the government continued to rise. The people grew tired of the government's leadership and began supporting extreme political ideas. Adolf Hitler quickly seized this opportunity and held a series of speeches to attract public support. Adolf Hitler promised to free Germany from the chains of the Treaty of Versailles, rebuild the economy, and create jobs. The Nazi Party used its resources to promote him as a powerful and great leader, and in the eyes of many at that time, Adolf Hitler appeared like a savior. All of this helped the Nazi Party grow stronger, while democratic parties became increasingly powerless against the rising wave of extremism. In the 1932 election, the Nazi Party became the largest party in Germany, followed by the Communists. Though Austrian, Adolf Hitler had served in the German army, and in 1925 Austria stripped him of his citizenship. In any case, Adolf Hitler preferred to be German, but gaining citizenship was difficult. Without it, he could not run for office and risk deportation. However, on February 25, 1932, the Interior Minister, also a member of the Nazi Party, appointed Adolf Hitler as a state delegate in Berlin, which granted him German citizenship. From then on, he grew increasingly arrogant and began to see himself as Germany's savior. Adolf Hitler decided to run for president, and his campaign was fairly successful. However, he received fewer votes than Paul von Hindenburg. Although he lost the election, he proved he was a major figure in German politics. After losing the presidential race, Adolf Hitler wrote to President Paul von Hindenburg asking to be appointed chancellor. However, the president saw him as a fanatical racist with extreme views and refused, appointing someone else instead. Adolf Hitler knew he was an important figure in the Nazi Party and that his supporters relied on him. He threw tantrums, cried, and said he would commit suicide if he was not made chancellor. This crocodile tears tactic softened the public and created pressure, causing the chancellor out of fear to resign. Under such pressure, no one else dared to take the position, and President Hindenburg reluctantly appointed Adolf Hitler as chancellor on January 30, 1933. He officially became Chancellor of Germany with the support of much of the public, who believed he would use his power to rescue them from hardship. However, their nightmare in the world was only beginning. Although he had become Chancellor, Adolf Hitler still did not have full dictatorial power. On February 27, 1933, the German Parliament building, the Reichstag building, was set on fire. Hitler blamed the communists, though many historians believe the Nazis themselves were responsible. Adolf Hitler persuaded President Paul von Hindenburg to sign a decree he had drafted, allowing him to arrest communists and his political opponents. Around 4,000 Communist Party members, including many leaders, were arrested. With just one move, Adolf Hitler rounded up and eliminated his opponents, leaving only the president. Soon after, President Hindenburg, old and frail, died, clearing the way for Hitler. This was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Adolf Hitler drafted a law merging the positions of Chancellor and President into one, granting himself full authority over Germany. For the law to pass, it required approval and votes from members of the Reichstag. After eliminating the communists and other rivals, the Reichstag was filled with members of the Nazi Party and his allies. The vote became a mere formality. Adolf Hitler had now officially become the supreme leader. Now, the law of Germany was Hitler. He was the law. But he still faced one problem: the German army. The SA wanted to replace the regular army, which the military strongly opposed. Adolf Hitler knew backing the SA could cause internal conflict, so he chose to secure the support of the professional army instead of the undisciplined Storm Battalion. However, rejecting this demand was risky, as the Storm Battalion had around 500,000 members. If its officers rebelled or resorted to violence, the consequences would be unpredictable. So how did he respond to the demands of the Storm officers and soldiers? Very simply, kill them all. Soon after, a bloody purge took place, later known as the Night of the Long Knives. In June 1934, Adolf Hitler ordered the elimination of the stormtroopers' officers. To secure his power, also had former political opponents, their secretaries who were present, critical journalists, relatives, and even a few unrelated individuals killed. Like this man here. After the Night of the Long Knives, the official report listed about 85 people killed, but the real number may have reached several hundred. Many stormtroopers officers once close allies who helped Adolf Hitler rise to power never imagined that the man behind their deaths would be Hitler himself. From that point on, Adolf Hitler faced no more internal threats. The army no longer feared being replaced and swore loyalty to Hitler. His power became absolute. The Nazi Party transformed Germany into Nazi Germany, and the national flag was replaced with the swastika banner. From then on, the German people lived under a brutal dictatorship. Freedom of the press, speech, and assembly were suspended. All other political parties were crushed. The Nazi Party became the only legal party in Germany. The next group Adolf Hitler targeted was the Jews. At first, he introduced laws restricting their rights and organized boycotts. Soon after, Jews were arrested and tried without cause. Across the country, they were hunted down and sent to concentration camps built under his regime. In these camps, they were brutally abused, starved, forced into exhausting labor. And when they could no longer work, many were executed. Adolf Hitler built hundreds of concentration camps, and by 1945, about 6 million Jews had been killed under his regime. He also created the Hitler Youth to indoctrinate the young. Boys aged 10 to 14 were required to join, train for war, and encouraged to become aggressive. Girls were taught that their duty was to bear racially pure German children, and some became pregnant at a young age. Even greetings were strictly regulated. If you deliberately used the wrong greeting, you could very likely be shot. Now Germany was forced to support Adolf Hitler. Anyone who dared oppose him in any way, even mocking his mustache as ridiculous, you would face the most brutal death. The aggressive foreign policy of Adolf Hitler and Nazi Germany soon shocked the world. Before long, he dragged the globe into a devastating global conflict known as. However, World War II was an extremely complex conflict, and this video isn't long enough to cover it fully. I'll save it for the next video, so stay tuned. Nazi Germany was severely damaged in World War II. By early 1945, it was on the brink of total military collapse. Adolf Hitler retreated to a bunker in Berlin, choosing death over becoming a prisoner of the Soviet Red Army. Adolf Hitler chose to end his life with a gun. Nazi Germany and his dictatorship officially collapsed after 12 years in power. Today, Hitler is remembered as a brutal butcher. Adolf Hitler was once just a boy with dreams. Just like many other children, because of an abusive father, a poor youth spent wandering the streets. An exposure to distorted ideologies, Adolf Hitler was shaped into a figure whose brutality terrified the world. The deadly swastika flag and the crimes of his regime would forever haunt humanity throughout history. Before ending the video, before committing suicide, Adolf Hitler ordered his men to burn his body to avoid identification by the Soviet Red Army. When they arrived, only a charred corpse remained. Doctors later confirmed it was his through dental records. However, modern scientific tests have examined the DNA and claim that it was not Hitler's body. Whether Hitler truly died or not remains controversial, and it is very possible that he is still alive today, secretly planning revenge on the world and one day